Ruth is only 4 chapters long, and yet it is almost completely overlooked by Christians, as if it were an unimportant story which has no relevance to anything we would care about in our daily walk. And yet it is a book which drips, it literally drips with Christological significance, and it is filled with amazing beauty and wonder. If one were to sit down and to read it from beginning to end, it would take no more than about 20 minutes. And yet how many of us have taken time to do so even once? Well, we're going to be in the book of Ruth for a bit more than 20 minutes, but I don't think you're going to find any of it tedious or boring. Instead, you're going to find it a delight to your senses and a marvelous story of love and grace, both from a human perspective and from the perspective of our Heavenly Father. Now, Ruth is an insert story, very similar to that of Judah and Tamar, which is found in Genesis 38. There is a main narrative which the Bible is following along with, but there are at times stories which occur during the main narrative which are selected and which are highlighted. And as we're going to see in the last chapter of Ruth, there is a direct link between the insert story about Judah and Tamar in Genesis 38 and that of the book of Ruth. And interestingly, Ruth was a story that was used by Benjamin Franklin to open up the wonders of the Bible to the French aristocracy. When he was serving in the French court as ambassador to these United States, he was a frequenter of what was known as the Infidels Club. And while he was there at one time, he heard some of the aristocrats there demeaning the Bible, as the pompous often do. And they even do it today, and probably more so today. They noted that it was unworthy of their time or their attention, and that it lacked any style or relevance. And Franklin knew this to be exactly the opposite of the truth, and so he played a little bit of a trick on them. They had a habit there at the Infidels Club of bringing in and reading stories that were entertaining. And what they would do is then they would evaluate them after the reader was finished in order to either compliment the reader or to critique the story in one way or another. Franklin went to the book of Ruth, and he wrote it out longhand, and he changed the proper names to French names. And there in the Infidels Club, he read his cunningly altered manuscript to his pompously elite associates, who are the great minds of France. When he finished, they were utterly enchanted with what they had heard. They loved its elegance and they loved its style. It was straightforward and simple, and their exclamation was, in French, charmant, charming. And their question, but where did you find this gem of literature, Monsieur Franklin? His answer certainly wasn't what their intellectual and arrogant minds would have expected. He said it comes from that book which you so despise, La Sainte Bible. Certainly there were those who were put in their place because of this one portion of the greatest piece of literature ever written in human history. And yet, the arrogance and the pathetically demeaning attitude is still found today, certainly in greater abundance than it was at the time of Benjamin's ambassadorship to France. The world of scholars and high-browed professors and godless politicians continues to put down and belittle the book that they could never fully grasp or mentally assimilate.